Walmart employees, what's the most people off Walmart thing you've ever seen at an actual store? Had to convert surveillance video footage to DVD for an attorney a while back. Was footage of a lady, clear as day, cracking open a bottle of olive oil, pouring some out on the floor, then putting on a nearby shelf. She then looks around and walks over to the spill and slips and falls. So funny to watch. It was one of those projects where I was calling people over to my desk. You gotta see this. Some deckhead set a dump bin full of energy pillows on fire. Store filled up with noxious yellow smoke. Fun times. I worked at Walmart in the garden department, briefly in the early 90s. I'm going to take a break and walk past the deodorant aisle and I see this huge guy, maybe 350 pounds, in a wife beater, put on some deodorant, put the cap back on, and put it back on the shelf. Told my manager about it, and he said it happens all the time. Not much of a story, but I work in the deli, and routinely an absolute giant of a man width and height comes in and buys all of my hot wings. I don't exaggerate when I say this guy's an easy 7 feet, because I'm 6 feet 2 and this gentleman absolutely towers over me. I fear the day when we run out of the spicy goodness and he vaporizes me with his immense strength. We had to ban a guy once for taking the motorized scooter into the family washroom, get wasted, and shoot his pants. Edit. Yes, I realize I worded this poorly, but it makes me giggle, so I'm going to leave it like that. When I used to work there, I was standing at the front once, and an old man came up to me with his chute covered underwear in his hand saying he had an accident. Then I followed a chute trail all the way to the washroom where it looked like a chute bomb went off. I worked maintenance there. One day I was out retrieving carts when loss prevention called out for help. She caught our pharmacist stealing a bottle of dish detergent. He struggled hard, way harder than the situation called for. During the struggle, pharmacist's jacket came off and numerous pill bottles scattered across the parking lot. He had a good scam ruined by a $2 bottle of dish soap. My mom worked at Walmart for about a year. She actually liked it as she was more active, but she decided to quit after the jewelry department manager had a meltdown and started throwing jewelry at customers. One old lady got pelted in the head with a heavy ring box, and it was over. Turns out the manager was selling the jewelry to friends and family, but would keep the boxes and stuff them with rocks and trash, so inventory would stay the same. She had the meltdown before she was caught. I worked at another, similar retail store until yesterday, and literally yesterday a woman left her severely mentally disabled son alone in the store for over an hour. I ended up hanging with him to make sure he didn't hurt himself or someone else. Mom was nowhere to be found until I was complaining about it to a coworker, and suddenly she is right there looking indignant that someone there questioned her parenting methods. I worked in a neighborhood market in Tennessee. One day a heavy storm rolled in as I was pushing carts. As I was pushing in my last row, I saw a man walking towards the entrance, and since it was raining it looks like he was wearing a white suit with yellow polka dots. I go inside, turns out it's a very thin SpongeBob Onishi. He wasn't wearing underwear. It was not a good day for my eyes. I once worked in the fabric/sewing department and was asked to cover hardware while the guy was on break. I wasn't trained on how to mix paint, so worst case scenario I bother the guy if need be. Easy enough, right? Not even 10 minutes later an older 65 plus customer comes up asking about a vacuum in the aisle. I go to see if I can assist him with questions. He asks if he can open it and try it out in store. I say no. He opens it and starts assembling it right in front of me. Of course, this is the moment my coworker comes back to find me staring dumbfoundedly at this old man. Edit. Just to elaborate, the exact question he asked me was, "Will this work on carpet?" I said yes. He then asked if he could open the box and try it on our non-carpeted floor. I politely said no. Then he proceeded to open it without skipping a beat. This is old, so I'm probably wasting my time. But I worked in the garden center at a Walmart, and we had our own gate entrance as many other garden centers do. Since we had our own entrance, we had our own greeter. Let's call him Dale. Dale was in an electric wheelchair and was a Vietnam vet. He had an accident after the war that involved his neck, so he was pretty much a quadriplegic, but his arms did work a little and he could check receipts with them. Dale took nobody's shoot, so we would always frig with him to get him going. Our favorite move was to sneak up on him when he was sleeping and jack up his wheelchair with a pallet jack so he couldn't go anywhere. Dale took his job very seriously, and one day someone tried the old Walmart dash with a big ass stereo system, but they had no car waiting outside. I'm pretty sure they figured they could get out of our door because of Dale's condition and all, but little did they know they was freaking with the baddest employee Walmart had. Dale tore after this guy through the parking lot with his chair, nipping the backs of his heels with the metal footrests. The guy had no choice but to ditch the massive box and full on sprint away from our attack quadriplegic. Dale then got in front of the box and pushed it with his footrests all the way back to the store as happy as he could be. R.I.P. Dale. I worked at Walmart a long time ago. I once saw an older man in his mid-40s, 250 pounds, walking around in construction boots, Daisy Dukes, and a pink belly shirt. At least he was confident. I also had someone shoot in the middle of the shoe aisle, then left a trail of shoot from there to the front doors, and then threw their dirty underwear in a bush. So happy I didn't have to clean that up. I was there getting an eye exam in the vision center, and when I walked by one of the rooms, there was an old man eating a piece of fried chicken while he got his eye exam. Not that this is really PA specific, but hey, I've been catcalled in the daytime while working. I worked in the produce section, so I had on those green aprons and my hair up in a ponytail. Know what's great? The look on a guy's face when he realizes he just whistled at my as while I was stocking shelves. Except I'm a dude. I've been missed, ma'am, darlined, hey hot stuffed. When I worked there was a dancer or waitress, likely the former, who always came in with tons of $1 bills. She was problematic, so I tried to avoid being her cashier. One night I was the only one working, and she starts her order. It's pretty late, and she has her daughter who is playing with markers that the woman gave her to occupy her. She doesn't want to buy them. Couldn't if she wanted. They're scattered throughout the store. I scan tons of things, and we get to the end, and she doesn't have enough money. Q voiding items. Checking price. Putting them back on. I recall that she took off the diapers, but kept some superfluous stuff. We get to the end of her order, and she finally pays. I've got more than half her crap plus the mostly empty box of markers on the belt. I print her receipt twice, so I can take a look. She bought 12 items. It took a freaking hour. There were something like 40 voided items. Ridiculous. I worked at Walmart a few years ago. I don't really have many personal experiences with people like that, but one of my coworkers told me something that happened to him once. Apparently, some asshole customer took one of the mouse traps and hid it at the back of one of the shelves. Poor coworker reached in and got his hand caught in it. IDK if that's a people of Walmart thing or a people are scumbags thing, but it certainly didn't sound pleasant. I worked at one of the older Walmart stores not super center back in 1998. I don't recall much of the customers, except me's. All me's. Alan was this elderly woman, whom everybody knew, who had a bad stutter. She apparently lived alone, and had really poor hygiene skills. Her hair was always frizzy, and she often smelled of terrible B.O. She would always put $100 or so worth of granny panties on layaway, pay her minimum deposit 10% at the time, I think, then come back a month later 60-day layaway, but it was recommended you make a payment in 30 days. Didn't have to, but it was recommended, and cancel the layaway. Not pay it off. Cancel. As in get her money back. You were allowed up to 3 layaway accounts at a time, which she did. She had been caught shoplifting a time or two at both the Walmart and at the Mart in the same town. She always carried this giant purse in the baby seat of the cart, big enough to probably smuggle out a TV. She was caught a few times trying to make off with the granny panties. When loss prevention and the local police department tried to question her, she'd try speaking with the really bad stutter, and they had to just let her go. I saw a cashier co-worker get arrested at her cash register for theft. She had been air scanning items and giving them away to her friends and family. When I worked as a cashier, someone gave me fake $100 so badly made the ink smeared. When I scratched the corner, I had to walk away from my register and notify the floor manager. To my surprise, the people didn't seem to understand what was happening and waited there until the cops showed up and arrested them. They literally did not move from the line. At one point asked me what the holdup was, and I even told them it was because their money was fake. Not a good idea, but these people were really dumb. I saw a man run from a loss prevention officer and get caught, and a woman came out of nowhere and attacked the loss prevention officer while screaming "I'm pregnant." The cops came. She actually was not pregnant, but the wife of the man caught stealing. They were both arrested. I worked at a Phoenix area Walmart in the late 2000s. We used to have a customer come in dressed head to toe in a baby outfit complete with a bonnet, a pacifier and adult diapers. It was a middle-aged white guy. The first time I ever saw him, I freaked out, but everyone else was like, "Oh, that's baby guy." Apparently he was a normal guy with a wife and a baby, and one day he just snapped and decided to live the rest of his life as a baby. He would pay people to come to his house and change him and feed him in a high chair, etc. He was a minor celebrity in the area before he passed away. If this says anything about the associates, just last week I was in the employee bathroom when another associate walked in. All the stalls were full, so he pissed in the sink, didn't wash hands, and left. I'm walking to my car. After I clock out, some guy pulls up beside me and asks, "Do you know where Walmart is?" And I asked, "The supercenter?" Or I was about to ask him the supercenter or the other neighborhood market, and where I live there are 2 neighborhood markets and 1 supercenter, and he said no, a neighborhood market. Then I pointed to the big ass sign that says Walmart Neighborhood Market, and I told him, "You're at a neighborhood market." So he looks at the sign and back at me, puts his thumb up and says "Appreciate it," and drove out of the parking lot. A family of very overweight people in their pajamas at 4 PM, all on motorized carts. An actual shoot on the floor, not in the bathroom next to the toilet, in the section for office supplies. Worked at the portrait studio in Walmart. I could watch the pajamas in the daytime and bad hair color parade go by all day from the shop. The main thing that separates Walmart from any other big box store is the fact that people seem to wait to get to Walmart to take incredible shoots. Whether they were shoots that would spray up the wall or solid logs that wouldn't be flushed, people saved them up for Walmart. I used to work at Walmart Corporate HQ and sat with a group of loss prevention associates at our shareholders meeting one year. I asked what was the most ridiculous thing any of them had seen returned. The winning answer, IMHO, was an open box of condoms because they were too big. I personally witnessed a woman returning a half-eaten birthday cake because it gave her grandmother diabetes and she had to go to the ER.